Get ready for the school year with Yumiko's annual back-to-school sale. Mix and match however you'd like within the basic collection, and upon purchasing 2 Leos, receive the third completely free. Whether you need black, burgundy, green, rose, or white, they have a handful of different styles to choose from. Kids and men's items are available to order too. Yumiko is also excited about its virtual shopping events through Instagram Live. 2 hosts showcase exclusive in-store options available to ship immediately, with different promotions offered at each session. If you haven't tuned in yet, be sure to check it out. The options shown are not available online, so it's the perfect opportunity to snag a unique Yumi at a discount. For more information on the back-to-school sale, live events, and summer stock availability, stay connected at Yumiko.com and at Yumiko on Instagram. I'm Rebecca King-Ferraro.
And I'm Michael Breeden, and you're listening to Conversations on Dance.
Today on the Conversations on Dance podcast, we are sharing our chat with American Ballet Theatre soloist Calvin Royal III that was recorded as a part of the 2020 Vail Dance Festival Digital Edition. Through August 15th, you can watch our Zoom chat with Calvin on the Vail Dance Festival Facebook page or on their YouTube channel. While you are there, we encourage you to explore the incredible 8 evenings of content that truly highlights what makes this festival so special. But hurry, the videos are only available through August 15th.
Welcome, everyone, to the 2020 Vail Dance Festival Digital Edition. My name is Michael Sean Breeden.
And I'm Rebecca King-Ferraro, and we are former ballet dancers with the Miami City Ballet, and we are now the hosts of the podcast Conversations on Dance. It's our pleasure to be here for the 4th year at the Vail Dance Festival to help bring audiences an inside look into some of the works that they see at the festival.
Today, we are speaking with American Ballet Theatre soloist and artist in residence for this year's festival, Calvin Royal III. Thank you so much for joining us today, Calvin.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we'll start with you at the beginning, which is a place that we often like to start on our podcast. You had what is considered a later start in your dance training. So how did you first become exposed to ballet, and what were some of the challenges associated with overcoming a start that was a little bit later?
So yes, like you said, I started ballet when I was about 14. I came to dance a little earlier, a few years prior. I did this community project called the Chocolate Nutcracker every December, and we did West African dancing, hip hop, jazz. So that was my first sort of exposure to dance. And then I was studying music at the time too in middle school. So when it was time to audition for the high school performing arts, I auditioned for music, dance, theater, and I got into the dance program. And it was honestly really, really difficult that first year, just getting my body to do these things that it just didn't want to do.
Right.
I mean, ballet is hard as it is, and just learning the technique and the vocabulary, learning how to partner. It was just really, really challenging. And then I had gotten a scholarship to go away for a summer intensive that first year after I first started ballet. And it was after I came back from the rock school, I noticed my teachers and all of my other classmates, they're like, oh my God, you got so much stronger and you could partner a little bit better. Your feet got, a little bit more stretched. And so I think it was after that experience that I realized, okay, like if I kept pushing myself, how much further could I go?
Mm-hmm.
And 3 years later, I was moving to New York.
So was American Ballet Theatre sort of always a goal for you once you had that revelation that, maybe this could be a career move?
To be honest with you, like I remember watching so many DVDs of ABT and other companies. And honestly, it wasn't necessarily like I didn't have it as like the dream company back then. It was me just trying to find my bearings with everything. And so it wasn't until later that I had gotten a scholarship to train at ABT, at the JKO school at ABT, that I was sort of immersed in this world of all these amazing dances that I saw on DVDs all the years before. And that was kind of like the moment when I realized, once I was in New York studying at ABT, that this is where I wanted to be, and this is where I wanted to, keep pushing myself and see how much further I could go within the company. And so, yeah, I've been there now going on 14 years since I joined the school up until now, being a soloist with ABT.
Amazing.
One way that you were able to continue to push yourself while you were already a professional was with the Leonore Annenberg Fellowship grant, which is $50,000 to basically push yourself as an artist. It's a pretty crazy gift there.
Yeah.
But how did you choose to spend that money? Like, what did you, how did you brainstorm to get to a place where you're like, these are the ways that I can best further myself with this grant?
Yeah. So when I first found out about the grant, that I had received it, like, nobody's ever given me $50K before and been like, it's your choice, do whatever you want to do with it. But I had always been, dreaming of traveling and working with private coaches in some of the top ballet institutions in the world. And so when I got the Annenberg Fellowship, I said, okay, I would love to go to the Paris Opera. I would love to go to the Mariinsky. I would love to go to the Royal Ballet and Royal Danish. And I put together this whole sort of travel package and coaches that I wanted to work with. Mm-hmm. And it all got approved. And I went to all of these places and got to work with incredible coaches, take class with all of the company members, and, just to experience some of these cities that I had never traveled to before, visiting museums and, just mm-hmm. historical sites and things like that. So, and also getting to see live performances for some of the companies I'd only got to see either on YouTube right. or, through DVD. Right. So, mm-hmm. So yeah, I spent my time traveling and working with these private coaches, and also working with an acting coach to, mm-hmm. Get the feeling for the roles that I would potentially do eventually with ABT.
Right. How long into your career at Ballet Theatre was this?
I joined ABT in 2010, and then I got the Annenberg in 2014.
Right. So you're still a fairly new company member. And at Ballet Theatre, yeah. There is, like sort of a long line for these plum roles. You have these seasoned principals that have been doing them X number of years. It's always a really big deal when it's like, oh, this person, who's typically like a soloist, a seasoned soloist. It's like, oh, wow, Bella's getting her premiere in Odette Odile. Yeah. It's everyone knows who she is, but you have to wait in the line. So this seems like a perfect thing for someone like at your age and your place at that time to get that experience for roles that are maybe you're in line for, but aren't going to happen for, say, 4 more years or whatnot.
Yeah. And to be honest with you, that was sort of the realization that I had, because I know being at ABT, there is sort of like this hierarchy and you waiting in line. And I wanted to get my feet wet. I wanted to have that experience of getting these roles in my body, working on the acting parts of these characters that I would one day play. So it was kind of my chance to just like go for it. And the ball was in my court to make it happen. So I was really, really glad that I got the fellowship.
How did you go about researching where you would go and who you would work with? There's such a plethora of places. It's felt like the sky was the limit, but you do have to like cut it back at some point. So how did you do that?
Well, I mean, honestly, I think for some years before I got the Annenberg, I have friends that I think that I was in summer intensives with over the years and was in the JKO school with, that are now all over the world. And so I was always in touch with them about their companies and what their experiences were and who were some of the people that they were working with. And so a lot of the coaches that I had the opportunity to work with was by recommendation. And I also did the Youth America Grand Prix scholarship. And so I reached out to Larissa Savelyev, who has such a huge network of friends really who were working all over the world. And she actually put me in touch with a few people, which was really, it was really great.
Yeah.
Were any of those roles that you worked with these coaches on things that you ultimately got to dance later?
Well, they were supposed to be this past season that got canceled.
You had some really exciting things coming up. Let's talk about it if it's not too triggering.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It's actually kind of, just to think about, the roles again. I mean, there's been times where I talk about it a lot, and then I've gone weeks where I'm just like, okay, I just want to be away from ballet, and where like now revisiting it, it's totally fine. So let's unpack it.
So what were some of the things that we were supposed to see you in this year, but 2021, it's the Calvin show. What are we seeing you in?
So I was going to make my debut as Romeo in Romeo and Juliet, alongside Misty Copeland and Cassandra Trineri. We were going to do it on tour in Abu Dhabi, and I was going to do it with Misty at the Met. I was debuting the role of Albrecht in Giselle, and I had a new role to the repertoire and to ABT in Alexei Ratmansky's restaging of Love and Rage. So those were like the 3 big principal roles that I was supposed to do, but 2021.
Fortunately, those come around a lot.
Yeah.
So
I don't know there's ever been a Met season that I've seen without a Giselle or a Romeo and Juliet. So,
for sure.
But it is like, isn't that kind of beautiful? You've been in the company now for 10 years, and it's just like what we were talking about. You wait in line, but it does eventually you get there. And I feel like you're like, now you've established yourself so much through a decade of performing with the company that I'm sure that once you step into those roles, it's going to be a completely comfortable at home feeling versus doing something maybe in your second year.
Totally. No, totally. And I think that's, for me, the thing that feels so special is that I have had that time in ABT where everyone that's in the room that are supporting me in these roles, it feels like I know them on a personal level. So when I get to perform it, with them, it'll feel that much more just, like a community.
Yeah. Was there something in particular, a memory in particular from your travels from this grant, maybe that pertains to Romeo or Albrecht that you would, maybe in rehearsals, you were referring to a lot when you were preparing?
I think it was when I went to the Mariinsky. That's when I worked on Albrecht more than in other cities. And I just remember my coach, Igor Petrov, at the Mariinsky. He was just always like, he came into the room with just all of this excitement and energy. And there were just times where I just felt like I could just go for it and fall on my ass and it'd be okay. It could be totally fine. And I think that sort of spirit that lived in the rehearsal room then, I kept that with me even to this day, and regardless of whatever role I'm playing, it's just kind of like I can just go for it and not be afraid.
Right.
So you said you also worked with acting coaches on these travels.
Yeah.
And, with these Warhorse ballets, everyone has seen there are a million different ways of doing your Albrecht or of doing your Romeo. So how did you find your own personal interpretation for those roles that felt comfortable and natural?
Yeah, so I think having seen the roles performed at ABT so much over the past 14 years, I've had the chance to kind of see the elements in each role that others have played that I just kind of pull from. And also working with the acting coach, like I sort of discover, how do I want to tell the story in a way that's authentic to the story, but maybe making different choices that others may not have made in the past. And so I sort of pull from a little bit of everything and everyone that I've seen, but also ask myself, how is it that I want to feel, or how is it that I want to portray this character or this scene? So it's just kind of like this whole journey of discovery for me with every role.
So in 2017, you were promoted to soloist at ABT, which is an incredible achievement. Part of what makes it so special that you were promoted, as we've been talking about, is you've been in the company for quite some time, at that point, 10 years. So that means that your promotion was fought for and very well earned. Do you feel that it would have felt different for you to have been promoted at a younger age, maybe when you hadn't been in the company as long? How do you think that would have differed?
I mean, I guess the way that I look at it now is that everybody kind of has their own trajectory, their own journey. I feel personally that, my timeline felt natural and organic for me. And had I been promoted sooner, who knows? I would have maybe danced Romeo or Albrecht sooner and had more time to kind of settle into the role. But I also may not have had all of the experiences that I had that made me feel more comfortable and confident when I step on stage like I do now. So
Right.
I think it just depends on each individual dancer's trajectory, and
Right.
I have no regrets.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing that I think probably goes hand in hand with this is what you're talking about when you are in a room full of people that are supporting you. It's all people that have been with you for the past decade plus that have gotten to see your progress and then fall in love with you through that time. Whereas, I'm sure that the company atmosphere is lovely anyway, but there is always the thing is like if someone's getting an opportunity straight out the gate, it's they don't have that family built yet, So
and,
I think
and you can feel it. I mean, and even in terms of like someone that may not necessarily be with the company, but may be brought in who has no connection with any of us on stage, it's the same thing. It's like,
right.
There's this person, how do you connect with them? Maybe there is a connection, maybe there's not. But having had that experience of being part of the community for this long, it just makes performing that much more enjoyable and less nerve-wracking, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, especially those ballets that are such community ballets, all those classics.
Like Romeo especially, he's in those marketplace scenes with all the other dancers so much, and every show is so different. And so it's like when the people that are around, you can just kind of play and be yourself almost, which is really cool.
And when those people also are really excited for you, it's like, I remember when we were doing Romeo and Juliet or whatever, and someone was making a debut or, it was like exciting to be in the core to kind of feed off of them and have little moments with them. It's like a nice community.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it also changes your status as a role model within the company, because it's not just like, well, Calvin's this, of course, great dancer and I look up to him for that. It's also like Calvin did everything, worked hard, put in the time, and you, it's like you are living proof that that dream is a possibility.
Yeah. And that's all I could hope for. I mean, just to be able to be myself, stay true to myself all these years and kind of work my way up and have those people around me that support me and also look to me as someone to mentor. Or it means a lot.
Let's switch gears and talk about the Vail Dance Festival and your time there. How many years have you been going now?
I want to say it's been 6. This would have been 6 years.
Yeah.
Coming out
6 years because you are the artist in residence this year and you will be in 2021. So you get a bonus year, which is well deserved, and we look forward to it. Tell us about how you first came to the festival.
So I was first invited by Damien to perform in a new creation with Pam Tanowitz. And so that was my first intro to Vail. I came out for the summer. I was there. I got to see all these incredible performances. And it was just really nice to be able to be in the studio with a choreographer who I hadn't had the chance to work with at ABT. And so it was a lot of fun. And Pam is so great. So just in the studio, outside of the studio, she's just so lovely and so funny. And so that was my first intro to Vail.
Was that the only thing that you were in that year?
I'm pretty sure that was the one piece that I did.
It's so funny how that happens. Sometimes I feel like people, when it's their first year, they're maybe in just like 1 or 2 things, and then the next year they're just like jam-packed with everything.
That's my next question, I guess, was going to be, at what point did it start to become the sort of relationship and dynamic that you have now, which is very much Damien and Heather pushing you into a rep that you don't always get to experience at ballet theater. A lot of Balanchine and Robbins, which of course they are the experts on. So when did that relationship start to build? What was the first thing maybe where they were like, let's let Calvin try this?
Honestly, I think it was after the first year. I stayed in touch with Damien and Heather. That the first year that I was there, they were obviously, really welcoming and really lovely towards me. I know Heather always brings up that she first saw me years before I was invited to Vail when they were unveiling the Center for Ballet. and Mark Morris was teaching a class that I was in at the time. And so it was after that first year that I did Vail that I kind of stayed in touch with them. And they're like, you know what? Let's give Calvin Stars and Stripes. And it was my first time performing that ballet, and I did it with Unity Phelan. And so I think it was just after that year, it was just like they kept adding layer by layer. I did Agon, I did Afternoon of a Faun, I did other ballets and worked with other choreographers. I worked with Pam again at some point. I think it was just after that first year, they saw how much I just enjoyed being there, even if it was just for the one piece. And so it just kind of kept building after that.
Let's talk about Stars and Stripes. Tell us, was this your first time dancing Balanchine?
No, it wasn't the first. I did Allegro Brilliant when I was in ABT Studio Company, but this was the first time dancing Stars and Stripes. And being up at that altitude, I felt like I was going to die.
Yeah.
It was crazy. I remember after the pas de deux, it was after my variation. I went into the wings and I collapsed. And one of the wardrobe women, she had like an oxygen mask waiting for me. She was like, "Take this, you won't survive."
Yeah. You got a whole quota to get through.
I just remember I felt crazy. And I just was like, I can't wait to do this at sea level. What it actually feels like when you're not, gonna collapse.
Stars, Stars is, we love Stars. It's just this like wonderful slice of American virtuosity, but something like Agon is a lot more complex.
Yeah.
And you definitely need someone like Heather Watts, who performed the Central Pas de deux for years, sort of leading the way on that. So when did you, what year was it that you first debuted in Agon, and what was that rehearsal process like?
So it was I want to say it was my third year coming to Vail, and that's when Unity and we partnered up again for Agon. Both Heather and Damien were part of the process, staging it for us, and Heather was really great about giving us the sort of historical context of the piece. And she was in the room when Balanchine was there and working with her on it. And so it was just, she had a lot of just experiences that she had dancing the role that she passed on to us, which was really, really important. And it just gave us more meaning behind the steps. And we ended up performing Agon almost every summer after that, either at Vail or here in New York for performances here and there.
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your partnership with Unity Phelan. It's sort of become a recurring theme at the festival. You click, I think, definitely, certainly as stage presences, as a couple, but like something about your work in the studio must also be good chemistry to keep this going.
Yeah, Unity, just as a person, she's so wonderful and lovely, and like she's focused, but also there's times where it's like we have fun in the studio, and I think that kind of we bring that energy when we come to stage together. And I've always just enjoyed performing with her and working with her, and it never feels like a stressful situation. It always just feels like, okay, well, let's do this, So yeah, that's
another partnership too. It's something we were talking to Damien. He was giving us a preview of the festival, and he was talking about how often dancers from different companies get to come together, and your partnership with Unity is a perfect example. New York City Ballet, ABT coming together, and like you said, now you do some other things together. What other opportunities have the pair of you had for performing outside of Vail?
Yeah, so we one that was really I think it was meaningful for both of us was we got to perform for Arthur Mitchell at Columbia University when he was giving his archives to the university. And they put on a performance at the Miller Theater here in New York. And we came out for Agon, we prepared, and as we're coming down the diagonal, we see Arthur Mitchell sitting in this big blue like armchair downstage right. We were like, whoa, we weren't expecting him to actually be able to do that. So I guess I could say I performed with Arthur Mitchell there. But that was really, really just so memorable. And I remember hearing after we performed the piece, him saying that the ballet is in good hands. And it was created on him and Diana Adams back in the 50s. And just being able to perform while he was there in the room was just so special.
Wasn't that like maybe was it a year before he passed away?
It was a year before he passed away. Yeah, and I remember too that, you know, he had requested that I perform at his memorial service. And so Unity and we performed Agon at his memorial service at Riverside Church. Oh my goodness. So those moments, just like having the experience to learn it for Vail and then how much it sort of transcended getting performed for Arthur Mitchell and at his memorial was just something I'll never forget.
So while you certainly are celebrated at Vail in the Balanchine rep, everyone loves to see, let's see Calvin do something that isn't in ABT's rep this year or maybe ever. It's not the only thing that you're sort of pushing, something that's different, right? You've had the chance to work with Pam Tanowitz, as you've mentioned, but also there have been a lot of Cunningham works recently, and you've been a part of some.
Yeah, Cunningham, Michelle Dorrance when she made her ballets for the festival. Yeah.
So what are some of these experiences like for you, and how do they affect the work that you do once you go back to ballet theater for the fall season?
I think it's really just being able to put myself in these totally uncomfortable and foreign situations for me as a dancer, and being able to sort of navigate and explore that. And being at Vail, we have that time and we're kind of away from our normal work at ABT. And so I feel like having that experience at Vail has been just artistically, but also technically, like it allows me to just sort of throw myself into something new. And I think that's what I take away from it. And when I go back to ABT, if we're working with a new choreographer or if I'm creating something outside of ABT, it just allows me to just kind of throw myself into it and figure it out.
Tell us a little bit about the rehearsal process for Merce Cunningham works. We've heard a lot about them at the festival, and we know they differ so much from what we know is for ballet rehearsal. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I think for the Merce work, it's really, I think it's just like throwing my body into some of these shapes and like musicalities and ways of just like tweaking my body in shapes that it normally doesn't ever do. But it's interesting because it's like a lot of, you go to a place and you have to learn how to recover from it. And I think in Cunningham's work, that's what's so beautiful about it, is that it just, something that you wouldn't think is necessarily beautiful. It's somehow the shapes that are created and the costuming that they put it to. It's just really cool and quirky. And so, yeah.
And often you don't hear the music ahead of time, right?
Often we don't, which, I mean, I think there was one Cunningham ballet we did at ABT, actually. That was probably my first or second year in the company, called Duets. And we didn't hear the music for the piece until the performance.
I just can't fathom that.
I couldn't either. I was like, oh, okay, I guess this is what we're doing today.
It's so crazy. But what is the reasoning? I forget. Melissa Toogood has talked to us about it. What is the reasoning behind waiting to hear that music?
I mean, the way that I understood it is that oftentimes when you rehearse to one track so much before the performance, it almost sometimes can become predictable. The performance can become predictable. And so when you don't have that music until the time where you're going to perform, it kind of allows you to be more in the moment and kind of use what's happening in real time to influence the movement and the steps and the connection with your partner. So I think it's scary, but it's also it puts you more in the present moment.
So let's talk some now about your position as artist in residence this year and next. Tell us a little bit about what that means. How does that How is that different from your annual presence at the festival? What new roles are you taking on with
Well,
this?
I think you know, being that this is going on the 6th year of coming to Vail and now being the artist in residence, I've seen past artists in residence, dancers that have taken on this leadership role.
Mm-hmm.
And I think for me, how it differs is that I've sort of been recognized not just as a dancer, but as a leader in our industry. And I think having this title and being able to not only just dance on stage, but do community events. I know this year we were talking about the importance of encouraging and mentoring boys in ballet, which for me is like, you know, it's huge because we need more dancers to see and feel that they have a place and that they can do it and be surrounded by a community of people that are here to support them.
Right.
And being able to be in that leadership position to execute these things was really important for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Tell us also about your virtual world premiere that's going to be happening. There's a new piece being created for Vail, and we'll see it as part of the Now Premieres program, which is a cornerstone of the Vail Dance Festival, and we'll be able to see one of those during this digital festival as well.
Yeah, so I am part of a new ballet or a new piece, a new film by choreographer Bobby Jean Smith. And we've basically been doing Zoom rehearsals together over the last few weeks. And we're filming tomorrow at Howard Beach here in New York. And so it's been really cool just to, again, throw myself into working with a choreographer I've never worked with before and kind of letting her movement influence my movement and what I'm feeling in the moment. And she's been so open to me taking what she's created and given me and sort of expanding on that, adding some of my own timing and improvisation in some places. And I'm just really excited to share that with the festival. And especially given that most of us right now are isolated, being able to still create and present something meaningful and just heartfelt is really important to me. And I'm glad that I can share that with the festival this year.
So what is it like then, you know, when you are working with a new choreographer, it can be like learning a new language. You know, every choreographer has a different, obviously, artistic viewpoint, but sometimes even a wholly different vocabulary. So what is that like trying to learn that for the very first time via Zoom? You can't actually, you know, see this person in 3 dimensions and absorb that way.
It's really a challenge also because you see the movement coming at you, but you're like, okay, I need to reverse this now. And what leg are you on? And like, so in the beginning, it was really just trying to figure out how to work in a rehearsal digitally. But I think after the first few goes at it, it got more natural and you know, there's this level of kind of flexibility and it's not so like set in stone, which is helpful.
Right. How many dancers are a part of this piece?
So it's 3 of us. It's me, Bobby, and Melissa Toogood.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
And you'll all be recorded separately for this?
So we're meeting tomorrow, but we will be recorded separately so that we could adhere to all of the safety and social distancing regulations and protocols. So, yeah.
There's another situation, just like not ever hearing the music before going on stage. Here you are not even being together until being in one space. That's so great. We're looking forward to seeing it for sure. That's awesome.
Yeah, so next year, 2021, you will once again be artist in residence. What are some of the things that you've been thinking about or wanting to explore when hopefully, you know, fingers crossed, everything's crossed, we are all back together in Vail?
Yeah, so some of these things I may say now that I haven't had a chance to actually speak with Damien about.
Well, we got to put it out into the universe. You know, we got a whole year ahead of us. So
we got to plant the seed.
Yeah.
I would, of course, love to continue this idea of mentorship and, you know, working with young up-and-coming guys in ballet and other dance forms, too. Like, I would love to open that up. but also performing with the festival. I would love to perform some new roles, like maybe doing, last summer I did an excerpt from Apollo. I got a chance to perform it with ABT this past fall. Would love to perform the full ballet at Vail, or other Balanchine rep that I haven't had a chance to perform yet. And also, I would love to curate an evening or two at the festival, just bringing together some of my favorite artists to the Vail stage.
Can you list off a dream
Teaser?
Dream team? What would your rep be? What do we get to see?
I would definitely love to create a ballet. I would love to maybe collaborate too with Michelle Dorrance again. Maybe bringing in Buck if he's available, and maybe create something for me and Unity. That we could share the stage, and so yeah, I don't know. The ideas list is growing, but yeah.
So have you been working more recently as a choreographer? Is this a new interest for you that you've been pursuing?
Yeah, so I've done, over the last couple of years, I've done a couple films where I've created choreography for, and I have kind of, in this time of sort of stepping away from the stage, had more time to just kind of develop some ideas that I've had choreographically, and I'm having the chance to work with a couple dancers also right now. So it's just, obviously through Zoom, but it's definitely something that I'm exploring and hoping to maybe develop into something more down the line.
So this is such a challenging time for artists of any type, especially ballet dancers. And we touched on it a moment before we started recording. But how are you kind of coping with this time of not being in the studio, not being around your ABT community, not being, on tour like you were supposed to?
Yeah, so, I mean, the best way that I can describe this time is that it's been a roller coaster. It's honestly been a time where some days I feel great and I'm on top of the world and I'm doing my classes out of my balcony and kicking things over. And then there's days where it just feels like I literally don't know, when I'll be back in the studio with my friends again, and when I'll be preparing for a performance again. So it's been really, really difficult and challenging emotionally, physically, not being able to move in a full capacity. But one thing that I've kind of been doing more is writing. I've been journaling a lot. I've been blogging a lot, and just sort of like, if I'm feeling a certain way, I go out and I just talk to my camera phone and just like document how I'm doing, checking in, and just I think for me the biggest lesson right now is just to kind of take one day as it comes. There's always things that are coming up, but I'm just kind of like just taking it one day at a time, and like checking in with myself and my family and my boyfriend Yatsik, who has been here with me during this sort of lockdown situation. So just taking it one day at a time.
Checking in with yourself is important.
Yeah, that too, because like there were days where I was so overwhelmed. Like I literally had to turn off the TV and the news for like a week.
You got
or a couple weeks. I mean, like every now and then, just to check in and see, okay, can we go outside now?
Yeah.
Can we go to the grocery store? But yeah, I just kind of have to I had to take a step back and just kind of reevaluate and just kind of live day to day.
Right. Are there things that you think, though, when we do go back to normal, if everything goes back the way it was, are there things that you would take from this time, maybe habits that you formed or approaches that you've created that you think would still serve you well in a time where we can operate as we are used to?
I think the thing that's always so hard is to not get too far ahead. In what was considered normal times. Like I was always thinking, okay, what's next? What am I doing next week? What am I doing in the spring? And it's, I think the thing that I would love to kind of hold on to the most is to just keep trying to stay as present as possible. If I'm in a rehearsal working on something, don't think about the next hour rehearsal that you have. Think about what's happening now and giving my all to the situation and my partner, or, listening to the music, like just immersing myself in that present moment as much as I possibly can. Because as we see, like you can't get time back. And so I think that's, for me, the thing that I would love to hold on to as long as possible.
Right.
Yeah.
So with the Vail Dance Festival being digital this year, there are some wonderful perks that a lot of people are going to be able to get this look at the festival who might not be able to come normally. So what is it that you hope that audiences will take away from this Vail Dance Festival digital edition?
Hopefully they will see the festival digitally this year and just be that much more inspired and eager to see us when we're back on stage live. I mean, that's all I can hope for. And you know, it's right now we're all getting used to things happening virtually, but I would love for us not to only think that this is the way to the future.
Right.
Like live performance is something that is so special, and it's so vital to our industry and to, you know, so many people that come and see. And, you know, there have been people that after performances have come backstage and said, oh my God, like being able to hear the orchestra playing and see the movement in real time, it's just like life-changing for some people. And I just hope that the digital festival will just encourage people to see us and be like, okay, I'm buying my ticket to Vail next year.
Yes.
You know? So yeah.
We hope so too.
What do you think? You know, Vail is a really special place, and it's easy to rattle off a list of the things that we find so affecting when we're there. But what's been the thing that I think about the most when you're like, I wish we were all there together this year?
Vail is just such a sanctuary, I think, for so many artists. And you know, you're outdoors, you're surrounded by all the mountains and nature, and it just feels so cozy in a way. And you're creating, you're working, you're collaborating. And I think that's the thing that I miss the most right now, being kind of in this isolation, is that, you know, I don't have that right now. So I think that's the thing that I miss the most, is being able to feel like I'm away from home, but also part of this community of artists and collaboration and creativity.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to get that spirit back.
Yeah, no.
2021.
Yeah.
It's happening.
It's going to be our year.
Yeah, we're claiming it.
Full Calvin curated evenings. We're ready.
Seed, finding the seed.
Can't wait. Well, thank you so much, Calvin, for joining us. It's always such a pleasure to speak with you, and we look forward to seeing you digitally perform a lot during this festival, and then, of course, hopefully very soon in person.
Do you have an idea of what we might be seeing you in other than the premiere?
It says I'll be in opening night in Apollo Pas de Deux. I'll be dancing Bitter Earth. In the virtual gala, I'll dance Agon Pas de Deux. The now premieres Bobby Jean Smith's new work, and that's my festival.
That's amazing.
We touched on almost all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bitter Earth is such a beautiful ballet. Who's your partner in that?
I dance with Bella.
That's what I thought, right? And so it's a work that we were just talking about with Damien, where, you know, it was made for the festival, and then it's gone on to have this life outside the festival. But it is, I love how he gives it to different couples all the time. There's, you know, a video of Tyler Peck in it from a few years back, but the way you and Bella imbue it with your own qualities and characteristics is just so special, and I can't wait to see that one again for sure.
Yeah, same. I mean, I don't often get to see the ballet because I'm dancing it, but it'll be nice to see it, you know, on the Vail stage and hear the words, and how I think for where we are right now in our world, will take on a whole new meaning when I see the piece. So
for sure,
yeah, looking forward.
We might all cry.
Yeah, I mean, it's moving anywhere.
I'll have my tissues.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Calvin, and we look forward to seeing you dance at the Digital Festival this year.
Thank you both.
Thank you for joining us this week. If you would like to support the Conversations on Dance podcast, there are a few ways that you can help. Click over to Apple Podcasts and leave us a review. Download episodes when you listen to allow our analytics to better understand our listenership. Join our Facebook group, Conversations on Dance, Friends of the Pod, or you can offer a donation. Conversations on Dance has always been and will always be free to our listeners. You can help us continue to create and produce this unique behind-the-curtain look at the dance world by visiting conversationsondancepod.com/support. Thank you for tuning in. See you next week.